Back to school means getting your kids involved in sports which can create discipline, friendships, and passion for the sport that they love.
But before your kid tries out, you need to make sure they are conditioning themselves for the right sport. And joining us now to talk about the right conditioning for sports is our fitness expert and trainer, Dex Henderson, who literally just wiped part of a blizzard off of my tummy. It dripped.
We said coming down, I said, I wonder if Dex is going to be mad that I'm eating a blizzard. And he says, I'm only mad because you didn't bring me one.
Hey, you got to share those things. Come on.
They're waiting upstairs for you, Dex. All right, so clearly, when it comes to conditioning and training kids for sports, you are one of the best in the city. You train a lot of kids in sports here in Music City.
Yeah.
So how do you pick the right sport, but how do you narrow that training down to that specific sport?
You know, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of times I see, especially here in New Mexico, I hate to say it, but New Mexico is so far behind the curve when it comes to sports performance that it's really hard to, first of all, convince the parents that it's necessary that their kids do these things. I see a lot of times that parents are convinced that this is going to take their kids to the next level. I'm from Texas, the home of sports, home of football, sports performance. So I started at age 5, you know, all the way up through high school, junior high, all the way into college. And so being able to pick these things apart, first of all, with the sport, you have to understand the mechanics of the sport. You have to understand what their focus is. Is it going to be fast twitch explosiveness? Is it going to be endurance training? Is it going to be for power, for strength? You have to narrow it down into those categories. Once you figure out what it is as far as what the sport is entailing and what things you need to really hone in on, then you pick that kid apart. The one thing that I'm really great at is the running technique, the running form, the posture, the strike analysis, how to have a proper gait when you're running, correcting the running form and technique, being efficient when you're sprinting so that you're not wasting a lot of energy. And then from there, translating it into the weight room, whether it be for someone who is actually of age to train, or if it's someone who hasn't quite hit that level to where they're able to use the weight room. I deal with a lot of body weight and bungee resistance type of training that will help them fire the proper muscles that are used for sprinting, that are used for lateral movement, that are used for conditioning.
Okay, now I coached high school soccer, and I can say that there is a huge difference between the girls who actually, like, you can tell that they train with a professional trainer and the girls who don't, who just run on their own. So let's talk specific sports. Let's talk football, your sport first. We'll get to my sport next.
Football, for sure. Football, you definitely want to develop the explosiveness and the agility portion of it. I deal with a lot of footwork and speed emphasis when it comes to football. The hamstring development and hip flexor development for football is very important because you're always following through with the hips, whether it's hitting, whether it's actually coiling the muscles to get someone off of you for a block, whether it's exploding through a sprint trying to run a pattern or to cover a defender or an offensive guy. I deal a lot with those two things. So a lot of them that goes into play would be the Olympic lifts. I use a lot of power clings, a lot of squats, a lot of snatches, a lot of deadlifts, because those are the power muscles that you need in order to engage the proper muscles to be efficient. Also deal with the explosiveness when it comes to the agility portion and plyometric aspect of it, because that will help them to not only keep the power, but convert it onto the field in order to be fast and efficient.
Gotcha. All right, and then of course, you know, as Brittany was saying, she's a soccer player here. So let's talk about the conditioning for soccer and some of the differences that you see there.
You know, it's funny because a lot of the soccer players that I get, they are very well conditioned, but there's no giddy up to them at all. I mean, they work on endurance all the time, but there's no explosiveness. I could tell them to go run 20 miles and they'll be like, fine, let's go do it. I asked them to sprint 100 yards and they're dying at the end of it.
Okay.
So you have to have a good balance. And like Brittany said, the kids who are working with professionals, they're not only working on the endurance training, but they're working on the explosive aspect for it as well. So a lot of footwork comes into play. So I use the agility ladder a lot. I also work on the overspeed training. So teaching them how to run faster than what their body's capable of doing by using bungees and resistance. This here will give them that fast twitch explosiveness that they need in order to go after a ball, in order to make a cut quick laterally, but they still have the endurance. The biggest thing that I see with a lot of soccer players that I've picked apart is the running form is horrible.
Really?
When it comes to the running form, they're heel striking. They look like they're fighting the air when they're running. It just looks pitiful. So you teach them how to run more efficient by getting everything to go north and south, teaching them how to cover ground with a lot less energy instead of trying to run full speed and fast. They're opening up their gait, they're driving their knees into their chest, and they're actually able to keep that type of endurance and cover ground a lot more efficiently.
Okay.
That's right. And then last, track and field.
Oh, this is my favorite part because
Really?
this is what I did a lot whenever I first came to New Mexico. So prior to coming to New Mexico, I worked for a sports performance facility, which was actually the #2 combine prep facility in the nation. And so I dealt with a lot of Olympic sprinters, a lot of elite athletes, a lot of NFL guys getting ready for the combine. Obviously, we know the 40 is very important. So with the sprinters, again, it goes back to the glute, hamstring, and hip flexor emphasis. You have to be strong lower body, but you have to be limber upper body. So you have to teach them how to actually drive the elbows back, make sure that everything's moving in the same plane, allowing them to keep their knees into their chest. So that's where the hip flexors come into play, so that they're actually getting that knee drive to cover more distance in a short amount of time and actually having that top end explosiveness as well as the endurance to finish the running.
Gotcha. Well, of course, you know, these seasons are all coming up, getting
Yes.
back to school. If a parent out there wants to sign their kid up to train with you, what's the best way to do it, Dex?
Best way to contact me would either be at dhenderson@wellbridge.com, or you can contact me via Facebook. It's Flex with Dex. Either one of those, send me a message. I'll make sure that I get back to you as soon as possible.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, again, for more information on how you can flex with Dex and get your kids ready for their sports this fall, head over to CASA.com.